Okay, today I'm going to be going through setting up a timing belt or installing a timing belt on a 2003 Mitsubishi Galant. And by all means, I don't do this for a living, but hopefully some of the tips that I've picked up or that I've done research will also help somebody else out. So here we go. Hey, today I'm going to go ahead and go through changing a timing belt and the balancer belt on a 2003 Mitsubishi Galant 2.4 liter engine. And there's certain things I've already done here, but mainly the first thing I did was jack it up, take off my tire, put my jack underneath, and then I also put a little jack ramp just to hold it in place so it doesn't fall. Okay, the next thing I did was jack up the engine, just put a little bit of pressure and just put that like a piece of wood, a long piece of wood on the jack, and it just goes under the oil pan, but make sure that you don't have all the weight on the oil pan. The next thing I did was remove some of the components here. This little plastic reservoir just comes right off. Just move it out the way. I've already zip tied some of the cables out of the way here, so that it's a little bit easier to work. I've taken off the motor mount, which goes in here, and that's the reason for the floor jack under the oil pan there. I've taken the top shroud off, and as you can see, my belt is completely torn. I've taken off the, I don't know what you want to call it, it's the shroud that goes around your wheel well. So I've already taken that off. Also, there's just a couple little bolts and a couple little nylon bolts that you take off. But over here, and it's hard to see, I've transferred from the inside, I've transferred a line over a mark, which also lines up in this area here. Kind of difficult to see. But right up in here, right up in this area here, there's a little T that's on this cover. So I've transferred the mark from the inside. There's a little notch, and I've transferred this to the outside. It may not look like it's lined up from this position, but it is. Found out that the bolts are all different sizes when you take off this cover. So what I've done is I've numbered them all so that I get the same bolts back in the same place. So I called this like number 1 over here, another one over here, number 3, and so on. So there's 7 bolts in there, 7 10mm bolts that need to be removed to remove that cover. And this is the mark that I was talking about on the back. It's a little notch, and I just put a little white out on it just to make it a little bit more visible, and again transferred it to the outside. And since I was changing one of the bearings, one of the pulley bearings for the timing belt, I had to go ahead and also take off my power steering pump. And again, I thought it was going to be a little bit difficult, but it wasn't too bad. Basically 1, 2, 3 bolts, and take it off, and I just set it out on the side, just out of the way, just so I'm able to work in there. But the serpentine belt and the alternator belt were removed in the very beginning. Okay, here you can really see the extent of the damage of this belt. Although this is still in place, but it's like only a 1/4 inch. It's all shredded. But the balancer belt that goes over here is also missing. It all got shredded up. And unfortunately, also during that time, you have a crankshaft sensor here. Well, mine got damaged, I guess, from the belt turning around and tearing things up. So I just put a little X on there to remind me, hey, that part needs to be replaced as well. Remove the tension pulley so I can remove the belt, or what's left to it. and that's basically right over in this area here. And there's not a mark on there, I just put it to so I could line everything back up. Actually, I'm going to be changing that out. But there's a 14mm bolt that you just loosen, and you just push this towards the water pump so you can remove your belt, and hopefully yours is still intact, not like this one. Okay, by the way, this was the belt that came off of there. Like I say, it was wrapped all the way around, so it didn't come off, but there's like about probably a good ½ inch all the way around it that's missing. Here I'm going to replace the idler pulley down here. All my pulleys that are associated with that with the timing belt there. Okay, again, so you can see the difference between the good sensor here on this side on the right compared to the one that was torn up. Like I say, it's just missing component parts, and you probably may not have to do this, but like I say, you know, my belt actually tore and had some debris all over, so apparently it just tore the rest of that up. So it was like $89 for this stupid thing here, for the sensor. Oh, and the component kit, like I say, that one there cost $124. Luckily I'm retired military, so they gave me like 10% discount on everything, but it still was like 200 bucks for all this stuff. Okay, you don't want to use anything like any type of cleaners, you know, that can transfer any kind of residue or anything onto your belts, is what I'm told anyway. So nothing like solvent based. So I pretty much got just all the loose stuff out of there. So now I'm going to go ahead and right now I just put the crankshaft position sensor just out of the way, because I'm going to have to go ahead and put on this back belt. I'm going to try to do it without having to take this off. I've already broken this loose, and I did mark it with some whiteout prior to breaking it, and just lined everything up so I get a general idea of the position of that tensor once I put it back. I'm going to go ahead and just take it right out. And it just comes right out. Okay, the way I'm going to try to get this thing on there is I've got the belt on there, and I'm not worried about timing yet. Just want to get the belt pretty close on there, but there's these plates. This sensor plate. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm even in the wrong place. The sensor plate has this area here where the belt just won't go on, so I'm going to try to turn the crank, and you go in the clockwise direction. And I'm going to try and get that belt and slip it on in that manner. Put a little white out here in this area here, and then there's like a little notch off of this bolt here, so those line up. I've got the belt on, and I was able to do that without taking this off here, which again I hear is pretty difficult. And so basically, if you're able to get that the belt around here and just turn the crank clockwise, it'll eventually fit in there okay. Like I say, this extended part of the plate does get in the way, but if you turn it, and you'll be able to get that belt on there. I put a new tensioner on there. Right now I've got my line here. It's already lined up with the mark right by this bolt here. There's the notch there, and it's also lined up now over here. You have a little notch here, and you have your mark here, so they're both lined up. I've already cranked it a couple times, and everything comes back to the correct position. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is get ready to ensure that this oil pump sprocket is in the correct position, and there's a little bit of a trick to making sure that this is set. Basically, you have a mark here. I've already got it lined up, and I've got a mark over here. But there's a plug that's right under the manifold, under the engine. It's a balance check plug or bolt. You remove that, and you're going to put like it's about a 3-inch screwdriver in there, and it's kind of difficult to get to. But basically, the plug is over here. You have your heat shield over here. That's over the top of your exhaust. But right behind the exhaust here is where this plug is that you'll have to remove. It's right behind in this area here, right up on the block, right above the oil pan. And it's the plug that looks like it doesn't, or a bolt that doesn't like lock anything down. So basically, you just go ahead and remove that. And you're going to insert a little screwdriver, and what I did is I fabricated this here. It's just a piece of broken screwdriver. I cut it down, ground it down, and I just put some tape on it and wrapped it around so that when I do insert it into that plug, it doesn't fall into your internal part of your engine, or I guess into the oil pan, and that wouldn't be a good thing. So basically what happens is, if you insert this, and if this is lined up properly, your sprocket, you should have no obstruction when you put this tool in there, in that plug hole. Now if you put it in and it only goes in about 1 inch, that means that this is out of phase, and you'll have to rotate it again. Rotate it 1 complete turn. And once you place this back inside that hole, it should go all the way in, like 2 inches or more. Like I say, it's real difficult to get something that small in there, so again, I fabricated this. I guess you could probably use like a little 3-inch screwdriver or something like that. But that's what I'm going to go ahead and check right now.